Guys, so first of all, good morning. As you can see, like, I just woke up not too long ago. It's like 8 o'clock in the morning and I'm filming this, but it's Christmas Eve. You guys will see this after Christmas, because I have a vlog that will be going up for Vlogmas. But yeah, I'm just getting ready to take Christmas pictures because I've been trying to do this tradition where I take Christmas pictures and post them on the gram. So please follow me. It will be down here below. I'm really trying to get like my Instagram together. But anyway, let's just get straight into it. So this whole thing is about my career, telemetry, all of that. So I don't know who's watching this, but I've noticed that there are some people that do watch my telemetry vlogs and all that stuff, and I really do appreciate it, first of all. Second of all, this whole thing is, am I quitting my telemetry job? And as of right now, I haven't quit yet, but I'm just be honest, my days there are definitely numbered, and that was by design. I've been doing telemetry for 5 years, almost 6, and it's time. But let's just rewind my life. So how I got into telemetry, honestly, I didn't even know what the heck it was back in the day. I feel like I was bred and designed to go into the medical field, and that's because my grandmother, she was a nurse, anesthetist. She was in the medical field and I loved her, and I'm like, okay, that's what I want to do. I want to go into the medical field. I didn't want to be a nurse. It was more like geared toward being a doctor. I think everyone wanted to be a doctor at one point in time. And so yeah, I went to college straight out of high school doing pre-med biology. And yeah, because I was like, I want to be in the medical field. And at that time, I was definitely ignorant to what all the medical field entails. I thought like medical field's just doctors and nurses, and now that I'm older, I'm like, no, it's much more. Like, the hospital does not run just on doctors and nurses, and I'm so glad that I know that now. But anyway, that obviously didn't work out for me. And now that I'm older, I'm like, thank God I didn't major in biology, because I would hate my life. Like, I could never be a doctor. I could never be a nurse. Because I honestly don't like the clinical side of medicine. I really don't. It's not for me. I don't know. I just don't like to care for people like that. But anyway, fast forward. So after I left college, I went to Job Corps, and Job Corps, I took medical office. I don't know what the S stands for. MOS. I also did billing and coding, and I took phlebotomy. And those certifications that I have now, I still currently have. They're very much so active. And that's what got me into the hospital, because I had applied to hospital jobs, but like the medical jobs, I just wasn't getting. And that's because I didn't have like any experience. I didn't have any experience with medical terminology. So the jobs that I qualified for was like dietary, and nothing's wrong with dietary and all that stuff. Housekeeping or like nursing assistant, and that's just not what I wanted to do. I was like, I want like something that, you know, something that I can enjoy. So as I went through Job Corps, I was getting my certifications. I was learning so much about the medical field, and I'm so grateful for Job Corps. Guys, if you don't want to go to college, get you a trade, because these trades afforded me my lifestyle for a very long time. when I was in MOS at Job Corps, they told me you can go ahead and start applying for jobs. Like, I think you're ready. I think you can like get out there and, you know, and I was like, I think I'm ready too. And I was on it. So I applied for a bunch of health unit coordinator positions. And then I applied unknowingly for a telemetry job. But back then, the hospital that I was working with, they didn't call it a telemetry monitor tech. They will get into that. They changed the name like a couple of years when I was in. It was just a unit clerk that has, okay, all of the unit clerks, or if you, whoever your hospital might call it, unit clerk, HUCs or health unit coordinators, or, you know, unit secretary, all of them at the hospital that, you know, I currently worked at they have to learn telemetry, because you have to read the monitors, and yeah, you might have to be pulled to watch the monitors, so everyone has to do it. Anyway, so I just applied for it, and then like a week later they called me and was like, hey, do you want to come in for an interview? And I'm like, duh, like I'm obviously looking for a job. And that was like my way in to the medical field. So the job interview was easy. It was just kind of like, hi, what's your name? And I'm like, Angel. And they were like, oh, so you're a medical assistant? And I'm like, no, I'm a medical administrative assistant, phlebotomist, all this extra stuff. I was really flaunting myself because I'm like, I want this job. And they were like, okay. They asked me one thing. They were like, do you know what it means when a patient coded? And with my medical terminology class, I was like, yeah, it's, you know, when they, you know, are deceased or passed away. And they're like, great, so when can you start? And I'm like, today. So yeah, that was my interview. One of the managers did ask me my goals and aspirations, and I was just like, I want to learn as much as I can, and I really want to get into medical administration. And she was just like, okay. So yeah, that's always been my goal. So anyway, yeah, so I started, and let me tell you, my start at the hospital was not pretty. It wasn't easy. If you guys don't know, I live in the state of West Virginia. It's only 2% black. So I'm pretty used to being the only black person. That doesn't, just because I'm used to it, doesn't make it easier. I still get very uncomfortable with being the only black person, but like in my department, in my telemetry department, the only black person. And yeah, so when I started, no one talked to me. They kind of just looked at me and went about their business. No one trained me. I trained myself, and I'm really not like saying that, like, I honestly trained myself, because they would not talk to me. They turned their backs to me, which they were supposed to be showing me things on the monitor. They didn't. So I took the book, the telemetry book that was in the room, and I just started reading it, and then I started observing what they were doing. So I taught myself. So when it was time for me to take the test, I aced it on the first try. So people were like, oh wow, you aced your test. And I'm like, yeah. And then it was time, my manager was like, okay, you aced your test, have you been working on the monitors? And I was like, no. And she was like, what do you mean? I was like, they never let me on the monitor. So, and she was like, are you serious? And I'm like, dead serious. Like, no one let me on the monitor. She was like, why didn't you tell me? And I was just like, I'm just not that type of girl. Like, honestly, I'm the type of girl, like, okay, you can make me the underdog, but I'm always gonna come back on top. Like, and I was like, no worries, like I got this. Like, that's pretty much. And she was like, okay, well, we're gonna get you on the monitors today. So when I got on the monitors, I was performing, and they were kind of like, how were you a monitor tech before this? Like, how do you know how to do this stuff? And I was like, I just watched y'all. So that was my start off in telemetry. And honestly, so you guys see my videos where it's just me in the monitor rooms. That is totally different. When I started, I actually started in a room where we watched, I think, about 6 floors in the hospital of patients, so each one of us could have up to 70 patients that we had to watch on the monitors and make sure we had to, you know, get their cardiac rhythms and all that stuff. And people were already in telemetry, you know, it was called the war room, and I was always in there with either one other person or 2 other people doing the monitors. So that was that. And honestly, I really wanted to start my YouTube channel back then, but the people that I worked with would not let me be great. There was a lot of hatefulness going on. Like, I don't know how to explain it. I can't find all my stuff. It was just a lot of drama. Like, my first 3 years, when I tell you, I wouldn't give out my number, I wouldn't give out my social media, because like the people that I worked with were just mad toxic. Like, I just like, ugh. Honestly, the hospital in general is toxic, and I honestly hate working in hospitals because people, I don't know what it is about hospitals, especially the nurses, and I'm not trying to shame any of the nurses, but it's just kind of like, maybe some of them need to find career changes, because they would like try to get the monitor techs in trouble, and I honestly didn't know why. I don't know why till this day. Like, I guess maybe something was miserable in their lives. So anyway, let's not veer off subject. So let's see, the first year me working monitor, I was still in Job Corps. I was just finishing up, and I automatically knew, I was like, I want to go back to school, because I'm just tell you, when I first started monitor tech, I was only making like $11, which is not a lot. And in my head, I was just like, I can't do this like forever. But God really has blessed me. My salary for monitor tech drastically, and clearly want to go back to school, because in the hospital you can transfer, do lateral transfers and stuff, but in order to make more money, you either are gonna be there for X amount of years, or you're gonna get some education and move up in the ranks, and that's just the truth. And I finally understood that, so I was like, I'm going back to school. So after the first year, I just grind. I was working so much overtime, like it wasn't even funny. And then yeah, I went back to school. I actually went back to community college first, because I was like, I want to save my money, and I actually now knew what I wanted to do. So I went for business management, and I got my associate's degree. So it was something to put on my portfolio. So I had national certification in phlebotomy, building and coding, medical administration assistant, and now I have my associate's degree. And then from my associate's degree, I was like, I'm going straight to get my bachelor's. Like, I took no time off. Like, when I graduated in May, like the beginning of May, the middle of May, I was already enrolled for summer classes here at West Virginia State, because I was like, I'm going back to, you know, get my degree. So yeah, so from there, Telemetry helped me pay for my school. So when I was at the community college, a lot of times I was like, I don't want to be taking out loans and stuff. I was paying out of pocket. And same for when I went to university, I was paying out of pocket, and Telemetry paid for all of that. So I'm so grateful for that job. But it's always been my plan to quit after I graduated. And if you guys didn't watch those vlogs, I graduated December 11th. So it's always been my plan that I'm gonna quit. Like, I put in 5 years, and honestly, I'm considered as a veteran in telemetry, and you're probably like, that's not a lot. For telemetry in my state area, the hospital I worked at, it actually is, because telemetry has a very high turnover rate, and it's because a lot of people can't handle sitting there for 12-16 hours, and then the noise, like, it's never quiet. It's never quiet. And then you have to be on your P's and Q's. Like, they're so quick to write you up if you miss something, and it's like, I get it, because people's lives are in your hands. Like, the nurses are doing other things and you are there to help them. So say if someone's O2 stat drops and you're not paying attention and the person stops breathing, like, that's on you. Or if they go into cardiac arrest and the nurse is, I don't know, giving meds to someone else and you're not paying attention, that's on you. So, you know, yeah. But that was always just my plan, to move on. And so, okay, let's get into the nitty-gritty. So if you don't know, I was first working telemetry full-time, but when COVID hit last year, they gave us a letter and was like, we're dissolving, you know, the telemetry room, which I told you was like, you know, we're watching 7 floors, They were like, we're gonna break it up to like, every floor is just gonna watch their own people. And that's how y'all see me now in vlogs, where it's just me. It's just like, you know, either 2 monitors or 1 monitor. And, you know, so I kind of was freaking out because I was still in school. I was just kind of like, dang, like, they were telling us, like, find a job and that's it, like, you got 30 days. So I basically reinvented myself. I knew that I had a good rapport with a lot of the floors that I worked with, and I knew that I didn't want to work as a unit clerk anymore. I knew that I need to get administrative assistant skills fast. So like I've said in my other videos, I don't know if you're paying attention, I have 2 jobs. Well, I still have 2 jobs right as of right now. I went to the bariatric unit, but I went to the clinical side. So basically, if you've ever seen like My 600 Pound Life, that's kind of like what I was doing. I was doing registration, I was doing administrative stuff for the doctors and stuff like that. So I went there, and then they were so short-staffed on telemetry workers, they were like begging people to pick up. And they called me. They were like, hey, are you still at the hospital? And I'm like, yeah. And they were like, can you still like do telemetry? Are you interested? And in my head, I'm kind of like, of course I am. So I was working telemetry like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, part-time for a little while, because I was trying to pay for classes. I was trying to get my graduation fees. I was, you know, doing all this stuff. So yeah, I was working like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, because my day job was only Monday through Thursday, and it was during the day, and I would work night shift. Which I could pick my own hours with telemetry, but that was just like what I would tell them. I was like, you can count on me. I will be there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, some Sundays, maybe 4 hours, depending on how I wanted to do. So that's what I was doing. And that's when I was like, you know what, since I'm in here by myself now, this is the perfect time for me to start my YouTube channel. And that's what I wanted to do. So yeah, that's how I started. And yeah, so I just started my YouTube channel. Like, I knew that I wanted to move up in the ranks, because the one thing about telemetry, there's no moving up. It's kind of just cut and dry. Like, the next step to telemetry is kind of like, you can either move to a different type of department, doing something else, or like you can become a nurse. And I told you guys, like, I don't want to be a nurse. So that was the flaw that I had with telemetry. Like, there was nothing else that I could learn. Like, I know everything. Like, not everything, but like, you know, telemetry gets repetitive. It does. And after a while, you're gonna want something new. And for the girls who are, you know, wanting to go into telemetry, go ahead, get your experience, learn all you can, and then, you know, I encourage you to do more, because telemetry is limiting. It has its limits, and that's just the truth. So I just encourage people, like, you can do more. I feel like telemetry is so good for people who are in school, people who are just getting into the medical field, or people who are wanting to retire, because it's a good job. It really is. And you know, for people who, you know, look down on telemetry, shame on you, but telemetry is a good job, and it can afford you certain accesses into doors. Like, for my girls who aspire to go to nursing school, don't become a nursing assistant. And I know you're probably thinking like, oh, I need an experience. Become a telemetry monitor tech, because every nurse has to study telemetry. Like, there's going to be a part in your class where you have to know like the telemetry. I have a friend who is currently a nurse. He is an LPN. He's going to his RN. He had to do a segment on telemetry. And the reason why I say go into telemetry, because you can do your homework. You can look at your notes. Like, you're not going to be super stressed like you would be on the floor with a nursing assistant. But guess what? The hospital always needs nursing assistants. So become a monitor tech, and then on your days off, you can ask your manager to pick up as a nursing assistant if you still want that floor experience, like, you know. So do that. Don't go straight and be a nursing assistant, because I promise you, you will be miserable. Telemetry monitor tech, I did all my homework while I was at work, and I mean, my manager was cool about it. She was just like, just make sure you do your job. And the reason why she let me do my homework, because I always showed up to work. I was always volunteering to do overtime, like, so yeah. Anyway, so let's get back to the hospital, because I've been dropping gems. So as I was approaching my graduation, I started to apply for different positions, supervisory positions, manager positions, and I had a hard time getting into those spaces. Like, I've got a lot of no's, and I never knew why. So let's just put it like this: the manager that I was working for at the bariatric clinic, I actually have more education than her, you know. And I know it's not just about the education, but I qualified for these positions at the hospital. And let me just paint the picture. There are no Black people in power at the hospital that I'm at. There are no Black people in management. There's no Black people in supervisory roles. And, you know, that's something that I aspired to do. And I was like, this is what I'm going to do. But they obviously didn't want people that looked like me in those positions. So I got fed up. I'm like, are you serious? Like, are you dumb? Like, I would be a great asset. Like, I know I would be. But yet, it just wasn't happening. And I didn't know why. So there was this opportunity where my clinical coordinator quit and the job was open. And I checked all the boxes. I had the degree, I had the years, I had the experience. So yeah, like I applied, and they pretty much gaslit me because of certain situations that was going on. And that was simply because I didn't agree with some politics that the hospital was doing, and they knew that. And we're kind of like, well, we need people on our side. And, you know, there are certain mandates and policies that have changed in the medical field, and the hospital is so short-staffed right now. And I'm just kind of like, you're short-staffed on managers, you're short-staffed on supervisory positions, but yet you don't want to hire me for what? And at this point, I'm just kind of thinking it's because of my skin color. And I don't know, like, I don't want to put everything on me being Black. But what else could it be? Like, I've never been written up. I've never had a verbal warning. Like, I literally have a squeaky clean background. And once again, the years, I got it. The education, I got it. What else? But it just was like they were gaslighting me. And so I quit my day job. I was like, okay, I'm quit. And that was like a couple of days before my graduation. But God had me the whole time, because I was already applying for positions, because I was like, I don't like this job, And that's when the Department of Health contacted me, and I started there. Like, it was just kind of, I just transitioned in. Like, I graduated. Like, a whole bunch of stuff has been happening. And now it's kind of like I'm transitioning from telemetry. And that's just the sad truth. And I don't want to quit, but the way of what's going on, it's honestly the hospital, because it's not the job. I love telemetry. It's the hospital. And it's time for me to go. But now, if you're wondering, like, oh, is there not going to be any more vlogs? I still have a lot of content that I have already pre-filmed that I'm just going to have to work into vlogs or whatever, that I definitely want to show you. There's still education that I want to teach people. So I still have telemetry content, but soon. I'm not giving you a date because I haven't even given them a date. I just know I've worked one time last Sunday, which was what, the 18th or something. That was when, and everyone kind of knows. They're like, I think Angel's like on her way out, and they know and they understand, because they were like, they're kind of like, yeah, like, you have your degree, like, you know what you want to do. I've always wanted to be on the administrative side of the medical field, and the health department, the Department of Health and Human Resources, is affording me that opportunity. Now, it is kind of different, so it is considered to be public health, but that's totally fine. It's still in the bracket of where I want to be, so you guys will see a lot of that. Another situation, I wanted to apply for the Human Resource Department of the hospital, but I had no luck in that. And I just, you know, if it's not meant to be, like, I gotta go. I just feel like if I am not valued at a job, then I'm leaving. And I encourage people to do so as well. Like, if they are not valuing you, don't stay there. Like, if you have the skills and they're still not trying to recognize that, no, don't stay. And that's just how I am. And my next part, people are like, oh, well, why don't you move? Yeah, that's my next part. Like, I'm kind of just getting my experience at the Department of Health, and then that's my next part. Like, I want to move to a place where it's more diverse, where I can use my skills more efficiently, and that people will see me for my accolades, for my experience, and not my skin color. So that's my goal, and that's just where I'm going. But I am so happy to have graduated. I'm debating on if I want to get my master's. So yeah, let me come back when I have finished my face, and then we can talk some more. Okay guys, so this is the finished look. I think I did a great job. Very classic. I'm natural, so this was kind of hard. I need to like spray my leave out with some sheen or something to match. But anyway, yeah, so the gist of this whole thing is I still love telemetry. I'm so grateful for it. I will always have the skill. I still have the passion for it. It's just, it's time for me to move on. And the hospital right now is just not the move for me. And I'm just looking to elevate my career, my life. And so the next step is just progressing in my career. And then I want to move out of this state where, you know, I can elevate as a Black woman and just move freely. So yeah, I really encourage you guys to get into telemetry if you're interested, and start a YouTube channel. Like, I would love to see other people's perspective of telemetry. If you have a channel and you are showing your telemetry, comment it down below, because I would definitely subscribe. I love watching people who work in the medical field, especially people of color. And my whole goal is to show people that there are so many different aspects and departments of the medical field / health field. Like, there's so many there's so much more, because once again, a lot of people just think it's just nurses and doctors, and guess what, hospitals or other places doesn't just run on nurses and doctors. There's so many more aspects to it, and one of those aspects is telemetry. So I hope you guys liked this. Yeah, and just comment, subscribe, like this video. Let me know what you guys think, and let me know what your aspirations in life is. If it's just doing telemetry, that's great. If it's something you want to go beyond doing telemetry, awesome. I want to hear about it. Honestly, I do. So I will see you guys next time. And I understand if you're like, oh, I don't want to continue to subscribe, that's fine, but I'm telling you that I'm gonna take you guys on this journey, and it's gonna be fun. So stick with me, and I will show you guys my life. All right, bye.